Real talk.
All right, welcome back to another Real Estate Happy Hour. I'm your host, Chris Wright, and today we're going to crack open the vault, financial wisdom. We have a very special guest. So just imagine someone who doesn't know the value of everything, or he does, but he understands the value of your dreams, right? So our guest, he's a navigator into the vast ocean of finance. Our guest is a navigator for everything that you might want to do with money, someone who's been there, someone who's done that, and they've helped others do it too. They're not just a financial advisor, but they're a wealth builder, a visionary who, basically sees beyond the immediate horizon to what your financial future can be. He believes in building not just wealth, but generational wealth. And we'll be diving deep into the secrets of saving, the maneuvers of investing, and the strategies, that transform financial goals from mere dreams into solid, touchable reality. And then from the importance of financial literacy to the impact of market trends. All right. And because we know the road to wealth is not just about making money, but also about making a life, we'll also get a little bit personal, touch some, tug on some heartstrings, things like that. I'll tell you a little bit about my woes. I'll be very transparent. But how does someone balance the pursuit of wealth with life's other passions? All right. So whether you're a seasoned investor or a curious newbie or someone in between, I want you to tune in. We're about to get a master class in making your money work for you. And perhaps just maybe you'll find a key to unlock the door to financial freedom. So let's get to this show, and I'll be back on the other side. This is the Real Estate Happy Hour, and I'm your host, Chris Wright. It's a fun place where we talk real estate, pop culture, and what's trending. Hey, I might even give you some good advice, so grab yourself a drink, sit back, relax, and take a listen. Unless you're driving, of course. I'll see you guys on the other side. All right, today's show is sponsored by Joe DiCaprio at Empire Insurance. Now, I've known Joe for a long time, so this is not your basic old plug or something I'm going to read from a script. He and I have been friends for a long time. He's been in insurance, I've been in real estate, and we just connected, both of us in the same industry. And I trust him with all of my clients. He's done nothing but look out for them. And he's one who really, really cares about getting you not the best price policy all the time, but the best policy for you and your family. So it's really, really important that when you talk to Joe, that you make sure you're doing all the right things for your home, your family, and that you're safe and you're in a good place. All right, so you can connect with him. Number right here, 518-350-0511 or joe at myinsurance.agency and ridewithempire.com. All right, let's get to it. Jose, how you doing, brother?
My man. Well, my man. Good to see you, brother.
Awesome, you too. Listen, my intro, did I kind of talk about at a surface level the things we're going to be talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. You hit it right on the money, man. Right.
Awesome.
I'm looking forward to getting into it and having some fun with it. So
I'm sure,
thanks for
man.
having me, man.
I saw one of your partners the other day, Mr. Nunez.
Mr. Nunez, yes,
Yeah, we had
my
some
man.
a
He's
little
working
bit of
hard.
lunch, right?
He's
Hey,
working hard. Yes, he's
he is
working hard.
working hard.
Yeah, he's
Good,
been
good.
good.
So tell me a little bit about your family. What's your family situation?
Yeah, I'm from Dominican Republic. I was born and raised in Dominican Republic until I was the age of 12.
Hmm.
My parents, like many of our parents, migrated into the U.S. when I was 12, and I live in New York City for a while, Manhattan, the Bronx,
Okay.
and I have three siblings. My dad passed away maybe around 7 years ago,
Mhm.
and it wasn't until about 2008, I believe, that I decided to move everybody here to Albany. Just got everybody out of the city. Used to live in Harlem and whatnot. So I brought my family up here. I brought my sisters and her nephews, and helped my sister open a business up here. She's very successful. Uh, Bought my first piece of real estate for my parents up here. about 8 years ago or so, maybe a little longer. And but yeah, and that's my family situation.
Good. And what do you do for fun? You golf, you play tennis, you spin records like me. What do you do?
I try to golf, man, but I tell you, I like golf. I don't really love golf that much, and I'm a 8 holes, man, 8 holes, and I had enough. Past the eight, man, I start to get tired. But I enjoy getting out there with the guys from time to time. I just
Okay.
don't love it as much as I love baseball, and that's my Achilles heel. So I'm a baseball fan, man, and in my spare time, you will find me in Saratoga playing baseball with my team. I run a men's baseball league. We have 10 teams up there,
Hmm.
and I manage the Saratoga Yankees. That's my thing.
You're a Yankees fan. We were talking about that before we went live. So
5 championships, baby, in Saratoga. That's what we got.
there you go. And I understand now. Maybe you can correct me, but at one time you were some type of entertainment promoter, promoter, or something like that.
Yeah, back in my some of my like my youth, my fun days. Yeah, so when I started in this business and financial planning business, one of the things actually that's how I met my wife. It was
Hmm.
actually dancing Latin night at
Okay.
some of the the clubs back then. And what happened was is that we used to get out there, and every venue was trying to fill in their weekdays, Tuesdays or Wednesdays with Latin nights, right?
Right.
Not on the weekends because we were never special, right? So, and I just got up one day and I'm like, this is not right. I think there's an opportunity here, and there was other Latin nights going on the Wednesdays and whatnot,
Hmm.
but I decided to do my own thing, and boy, I did that very successfully for a long time. We used to average. I used to do things for Jillian's and Envy and all these clubs around town, who average a couple hundred people on a Friday night. So I kind of created a business out of that, right?
Hmm.
And that one thing led to another. And I don't know if you remember, but the current City Beer Hall now,
Yeah.
which used to be the old Athens. So
Very
when
familiar.
I created my own thing, I actually took my what I built and I took it there and I opened my own club there. So
Okay.
and we did that very successfully for a while, where I was bringing major artists in the Latin community up here to come and perform, and so it was fun while it lasted.
You don't get an itch to do that anymore, do you?
I do, man, but I just can't stay up that late anymore.
Trust me, I tell you. People ask me all the time. They know I'm a DJ, and they're like, "You do the clubs and bars?" I'm like, "Are you kidding?" No, I just
Yeah,
do weddings. Weddings are over by 10 o'clock. We're good to go.
right, right. I can do weddings. I can do weddings. I don't know if I can do nightclubs anymore. Right.
Exactly. So let me tell you why I reached out to you and I wanted you to come on is because I work in real estate, as you know, and so many people that I come in contact with, they have no money. They want to get the
Yeah.
American dream. They want to buy a house, but even if they have to put 3 or 5% down, or let alone 10 or 20, they just say we're not ready. We haven't saved the money yet. Some of these customers and clients are in their mid to early 20s, so they still have time to recoup. But some people have had some misfortunes in life. They might be middle age or in their 40s. They've ruined their financial, situation, and they just want to buy a house, or they want to become whole, and they think it's too late. They think I can't save money. I don't know what to do, and they don't know how to manage their finances, so they depend on credit cards and loans and things like that to survive. So I wanted to bring
Yeah.
you on the show to let us all know, the end is not bleak. Like there's a way to get out of this. There's a way to save money. You can still save for retirement even when you're 40 or 50. It's not too late. And so I want to thank you for coming on the show and sharing your wisdom. All right.
Yeah. No, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
So I got some deeper questions, but what, as an opening, what would you tell that person who says, I just want to save to buy a house? What's my plan? How's that work? I need like a 2-year plan. What should I be doing right now?
Yeah. So you know, everyone that comes, to my office has some sort of objective, right? And
Hmm.
buying real estate or buying their first home is one of them.
Yeah.
And I think that the challenge to most people, listen, we all have those objectives, but when somebody cannot accomplish that particular objective, we have to go to the source of the problem.
Hmm.
And the source of the problem is always cash flow, right?
Right.
Always cash flow.
Hmm.
So we have to have a conversation really about, number one, how organized are you, right? Number two, do we understand what's coming in and what's going out? Because it's always a cash flow problem, the
Hmm.
reason why we cannot do something. So I think that we always have to go to the root of the issues and understand exactly what is going on there that you cannot save. And listen, life is crazy, life is expensive, and every time I have a conversation with someone, what I say to them is, I don't know you. I'm nobody to come in here and tell you got to save 20%, 15%. Like we
Right.
know we have to do that,
Hmm.
right? We just have to get to the root of the problem and have a real conversation as to why so you cannot save,
Hmm.
so we can try to help you accomplish that objective. So I always start with that in mind is let's talk about cash flow and what's going on there is the
Okay.
first thing.
That's awesome. That's good to know. So, what would you if people throw this word around? It's kind of a buzzword, the word generational wealth. I think that we're trying to correct some of our parents or grandparents, you know, bad ways of handling money. You come from an ethnic background. I come from an ethnic background. We know that financial literacy is not always taught in poor communities or in urban cities. I'm from Philly. Where are you from originally?
Dominican Republic.
Dominican Republic. Right. So financial literacy is not something that might. I don't know. I don't want to speak for you, but it's not something that was spoken about in my family. So the word generational wealth is not something I learned until I was well into adulthood. But what are some strategies, in creating generational wealth?
Yeah. So to speak on, just want to add something here to speak on what you mentioned. Yeah, growing up in New York City and coming from a humble family from the Dominican Republic, I didn't understand what that was either, right?
Right.
You know, I knew one thing is that I wanted to learn exactly how to help my parents.
Hmm.
Okay, so therefore that's why I went into this industry.
Right.
But generational wealth means a lot of different things for a lot of people. Okay, sometimes it's financial, meaning like I just want to have as much money as possible, right? In some cases, people want to have as much money as possible to leave it to their kids. Well, most people don't know how to do that. I'll give
Right.
you an example. Okay, um, I have a client right now. We have these conversations, and she's very keen on creating generational wealth for her children.
Hmm.
The process to get there is to ensure that one, like I said, this is very important, is to make sure that she's properly organized because as successful as she is,
Hmm.
right? Nobody has taken the time to educate her as to, for example, what goes into having your own personal balance sheet,
Right.
right? So that's number one. Once she's educated, then we'll begin to understand exactly how to save,
Hmm.
okay? How much to save, and then lastly, where to save it. So once we understand where to save it, what we have to create is an opportunity for her to not only build enough wealth, but how do we pass that to the next generation, right?
Hmm.
And that has to do with a couple of things. Not only savings on stocks and bonds, but
Right.
also having the proper amount of life insurance on her, okay? Creating the right estate planning documents and the right trust documents, right?
Right.
That then she can create the management and the transfer of assets for her family, right? And that's what helps create generational wealth because now when she passes
Hmm.
and everything's organized and she's got sufficient amount of liquidity, including the life insurance, which is really what provides the most liquidity for people, right?
Right.
That can go into trust for her,
Okay.
therefore creating an opportunity for her children.
Hmm.
And then we're doing the same thing for her children now, although they are 1 and 5. We're creating the same opportunities for them, making sure that they have the same plan now. So as they grow and develop, right, what they have an option to do is to go into the trust.
Right.
And if they want to buy a vehicle or they want to start a business or they want to they want to do something, they want to go to school, they can go into the trust and they
Hmm.
can borrow from the trust. Okay, as long as they can meet one of those criteria that she feels are important. Okay, so
Yeah.
that way, she instituted a sense of responsibility essentially,
Hmm.
right? So they can go and do better for themselves, and then we create the same plan for them. So when they grow and get older, right, the children will have the same opportunities by going into the trust and borrowing from the trust from the assets that they leave to them that they then pass to their children. That's how you create generational wealth. And the problem with our community is that we are not educated enough or informed enough to understand exactly how that works. And also another aspect is that you don't have the right people in front of you talking to you about that. So therefore, when you put it all together, that's one of the reasons why our community doesn't thrive.
Mm, that's deep. That's deep. One of the things that I struggled with all of my work life is, you get a paycheck, right? And then the
Yeah.
government gets their hands on it, and then you got to pay medical, and you got to pay health and dental and all that kind of stuff. And your, $1,000 check is down to 700 now, and you're
Yep.
like, I don't have any more to save. So how, or if I do save, I want to make sure I can get my hands on it if I need it, because that's what people are afraid of with long term savings. So how do you balance long term savings for wealth with immediate financial needs? How do you balance that?
Yeah, I think that we have to. Every individual is different. In some cases, especially with young generations right now, instant gratification is very important,
Hmm.
right? So sometimes you find people that do not want to delay gratification because they want it now,
Hmm.
and when they want it now, and they don't understand their cash flow,
Right,
and they don't pay attention because in some cases, to be honest with you, they don't want to know.
right.
We don't want to know, right? You just continue to kind of put it off, thinking, I'll do it next year. And
Hmm.
before you know it, you're at 35, 40, 45, and then you're like, oh, damn, right? I should have, would have, could have.
Yeah.
So again, it goes back to being educated. And what really works for a lot of our clients, how our clients are very successful, is like we have to create a system
Hmm.
for people, right?
Right.
We have to create a system. We have to create a process. If you think about where most people have their wealth,
Hmm.
right, it's in two places. It's either they own a home and they have built some sort of equity in the house
Right.
because something really that they want, or two, they work at an employer and they have a 401k plan.
Hmm.
And what happened there is that that money has been taken away from
Right.
them and automatically put somewhere. It's out is out of mind. So therefore, somebody might have 20, 40, 50, 60,000, but that's where they have most of the wealth because that system, that process, take that money away from them and they
Right.
build it. Okay. So we have to we create the same process for our clients when it comes to creating liquidity, right?
Hmm.
So every single one of our clients, right, is saving 20% of their income. If not, that's their objective.
Okay.
In some cases, it's easy. In some cases, we have to do a lot of bad habits that people have created and work again with a cash flow and
Hmm.
understanding what comes in and what's going out
Right.
and trying to make the adjustments necessary, not to change people's lives, right?
Hmm.
But to make sure that they have a good balance as to how they can build that liquidity in the
Right.
short term. That if we can help someone build that liquidity in the short term, then we can propel the future in the long term because liquidity is that important. And that's how we get to help that person buy that next house. I tell you, I've had clients that when they want to do something and they want it really bad, they do it.
Hmm.
Okay, right? When somebody wants a house, they will find a way. Okay,
Yes.
you could try. And if you have the desire to do so, and then you have the right person working next to you, helping you, it can be accomplished. But you have to have a process to be able to do so, right?
Yeah. I want to touch on that because, and it's not a pushback at all, but some people um, buy homes when they're not financially ready. And
Yeah.
we want to make sure, we've heard the term, I don't want to be house poor, or they don't want
Uh-huh.
to throw all of their money into a house, and then if
Yeah.
the first tragic thing that happens in that house, or the first crisis, they're broke, they can't pay their mortgage. And
Yeah.
God, I met people who haven't paid their mortgage in a year because they got behind and they just can't catch up. So just wanted to point that out there because like you said, if someone wants to buy a house, they'll do it, but they have to make sure they have the right minds behind them to help them out with that process.
Yeah, absolutely. They got to have, I think that, like you said, what goes with that is making sure that you're not only helping someone saving enough so they can buy the house,
Right.
but saving enough so they can buy the house and have the liquidity because then there comes the furniture, and then there
Exactly.
comes this, right? And then we
Hmm.
have, you want to have your rainy day fund,
Yeah.
right? to make sure that when something doesn't go right, that they have the ability to be able to sustain for a short period of time, and that's the key.
Right. So, explain a little bit about the concept of paying yourself first, and how that applies to, savings and investing.
Yeah, say that again. Sorry.
Paying yourself first. How does that apply to saving and investing? A lot of people don't understand the concept of paying yourself first.
Yeah, again, it goes back to changing the mindset, right? One. And then number two goes back to changing the flow of cash flow,
Right.
right? Because what happens is, and you said something very important earlier, you receive a paycheck, and when you work for someone, you're the last person to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is that you receive a paycheck, and then you got your health insurance, you got your payroll taxes, you have your social security taxes, you got everything, and then you actually get whatever's left. So
Mm-hmm.
it kind of provides a bigger challenge for people because then is now I got to pay my bills, and then hopefully I can save what's left. Okay,
Right.
so we have to study that very closely, and then we have to kind of flip upside down exactly how the flow of cash flow works. So
Mm-hmm.
what we do is that when possible, we want to make sure that we can create a system for a client.
Right.
The funds will come in, and we try to capture the savings first. So now we're not saving by decision, we're saving by default,
Correct. That makes a lot of
right? Because
sense.
what most people are doing that is that they're trying to save by the decision, right?
Yeah.
And every time that we have to have a conversation, well, there's never enough money left.
Yeah.
So if we can, whenever possible, if we can change that and flip it, and instead of doing that, save by default and capture the savings first by creating the right process and systems,
Mm-hmm.
and we might be able to capture, 300, 500,000 dollars or whatever, depending on the person. We
Right.
don't really have to have a conversation, but the important part associated with that is that we have to understand exactly what your cost of living is,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And stay within reason, spending what you need to spend after you save, right? That's how you can create exponential growth on your savings. We practice that with almost every single of our clients, and those clients that follow that process, they build, liquidity and their wealth much, much faster.
Right. You know, in every facet of business, even in sales
Yeah.
and family planning and things like that, we always talk about setting goals, right? And but a lot of people don't set financial goals because people don't psychologically people don't like to talk about money. So how do you make people comfortable with setting financial goals, and budgeting and things like that?
Yeah, it comes down to, really what is the life that you want.
Mhm.
Okay. What is it that you want? What is it that you want for your family? Right.
Yeah.
What do you want the outcome to be 10, 15 years from now?
Hmm.
um, if we're sitting here 3, 5 years from now, looking back, what went well in your life personally and financially for you to feel that you actually are making the right progress.
Right.
So when you start, planning, we all want to plan. Planning is very psychological. You
Mm.
understand?
Yeah.
It's more psychology and coaching than numbers.
Hmm.
So once we have a conversation with clients, and they feel comfortable and they understand, and you walk them through that, and if they have the desire to really look at the numbers after that, right, then is when we can see that progression with every single client. So that's what we have to start first, understanding that the psychology with people and making them feel comfortable. But you
Absolutely.
have to have the right questions, and they have to want to care. They have to care.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what comes along with that is making people understand that it's okay to talk about money.
Yeah,
Because if you, I just know that if you're not, if you keep everything close to the vest, you say that's personal, and I don't talk about money, then you'll always be afraid to correct, your financial situation. So they need to meet someone, whether it's
they
their
have they
financial
have
advisor.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have to find someone. People are, like you said, it's hard to talk about money because it's very private. Okay,
Yes.
and people have their own reasons as to why they need to be private.
Hmm.
What I can tell you is that in some cases, some folks might be embarrassed to share.
Yeah. 100%.
Okay, in some cases, they don't really want to know. or they don't want to change their lifestyles, right? Or maybe they want to, but you know, we're always too busy. Okay, so everybody has different reasons why, but what I can tell you is that I've had every single one of those individuals in my office, and once they understand that planning is really not that difficult,
Yeah.
it's more of a philosophical approach. And secondly, they comfortable with the person in front of them that
Hmm.
is really going to help them not change their life so they're not having fun,
Right.
but allow them to have a nice balance where they can still have fun, do the things they want within reason, and still plan for their families and their future. Everybody's on board. They all want to do it.
Yeah. You
So
know,
it's just getting to that conversation.
would you agree with this? Because I have my favorite type of real estate customer, but I
Yeah.
think a diamond or a gem would be in the financial world for someone to come to you and say, Jose, I want to start saving, investing. And you say, well, how much do you have? And they say, I don't have anything. I haven't saved a dime. So you're starting their journey from ground zero, right?
Yeah.
And I just think that's so awesome because if you take that person and they say, I haven't saved a dime, I don't know how to save. Someone just told me that I should talk to you if I want to change my life. And you say, well, let's start from A, as opposed to someone coming in going, I know what I'm doing. I have a ton of money. I've saved before. So now you're helping people who really don't need help. They just want maybe another opinion. But that person
Yeah.
that comes to you and say, I have nothing, I just think that's awesome. So, and I was saying my type of real estate customer that comes to me is one that comes to me and go, I have no idea what I'm doing. I've never purchased a house. I haven't even started savings yet. I just want some information and I got a plan 18 months from now to buy a house.
Right.
Great. Let's get you on the journey. I love that,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah.
So would you agree that that's a really good client to work with?
Yeah. They're good clients to work with, and a lot of my clients. The reason why I got into this point now is because a lot of my clients, right, they didn't really have much when they started,
Mm-hmm.
but they have potential.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I help them explore that potential,
Mm-hmm.
and now they're successful, right? But I got to tell you that I also enjoy talking to those people that actually have accumulated something, right?
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because it never seems to amaze me that I can have conversations with 10 folks that have had success, have money, and have advisors. And the amount of disconnect that I find in their planning and the gaps and opportunities are still tremendous, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I love getting into those very difficult situations where, for example, I have a guy right now, very successful, and he's got three different advisors.
Right.
But I just can I scratch my head. I'm like, I don't know what these guys are doing. So because there's so many opportunities for him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoy those challenges to show someone also who has been doing things for so long and is successful, how they can continue to improve that picture. So yeah, people that don't have anything and want to build,
Yeah.
it's like a blank canvas, and then you have those crazy puzzles that people have done so many crazy things all over the place with three or four different people, and then you have to break it apart and put it together. I enjoy that stuff as well.
So one of the first times I sat down with a financial advisor, he said he asked me a very shocking question, but it's very simple. That if you died today, would your wife and kids maintain the lifestyle they have today?
Hmm.
I don't think I had ever thought of that. Right? We just
Yeah,
go on living and we don't think about, can your value to the family monetarily be replaced?
yeah,
And that's what I want people to think about here. And I'm gonna have you speak on that because unfortunately in your business you have to talk to beneficiaries sometimes,
yeah.
and it's not always a comfortable conversation, right? Why don't you
No, it's
talk to us
not.
about making sure that you protect your family's lifestyle, whether you're 30, 40, 35, 25 years old?
Yeah, that's a very important part of planning. Most people don't come into a financial planning office really thinking about protection. It's,
Right.
it's really about How can I earn more of my money, or what kind of stock can I buy, or
Hmm.
whatnot. And then there's the few that really are thinking about protection, but they're far from between. If you're thinking about the financial planning process, and you go back and read any financial planning book, right, it starts with protection. Okay. Um, for me, it starts with one organization, and then we have to coach your clients as to how do you protect what's important today.
Hmm.
Because the thing is that we're going to spend the next 3, 5, 10 years, 20 years building wealth and trying to build wealth. Well, like you said, what happens if something happens in between, right? So we always need a backstop for cash flow,
Hmm.
always, right? And we have to protect what's important. So I would say one, every single client needs to understand exactly what type of auto insurance they have, if they have the proper homeowner insurance, if they have proper umbrella policies.
Hmm.
And those conversations are so simple and easy, but most people really don't pay attention.
Right.
If something would happen where you and I are in a car accident and I hurt you, the first thing that you're going to do is going to sue me.
Hmm.
For why? Because you might be hurt and therefore you're going to lose your future earnings, right? Which I call it your human life value.
Right.
So that's one thing. So people should always understand and understand what they have there. I had a client that a business owner. She had a no umbrella and she had $200,000 of liability coverage, right? So what we
Hmm.
did was we improved that to $1 million of auto insurance coverage and a 5 million umbrella policy. And that is her first line of defense
Yeah.
for her personal balance sheet and her business. Okay. Then you're looking at making sure that you protect your income. So you need a proper disability insurance,
Hmm.
right? To have a backstop for that income, right? Because
Right.
that's really what is the most important engine.
Yeah.
Okay, so protect that as best as you can. If you own a business, you need to look into other sort of protections, such as business overhead protection for the same reasons. Maybe you need some key man insurance. Maybe you need additional estate planning to make sure you protect your family
Hmm.
and your legacy. And then you need a proper amount of life insurance to go along with your estate plan as well,
Gotcha.
right? When it comes to life insurance, and I see this example every day, what people do is that they just buy life insurance in some cases because they feel that they have a need,
Yeah.
but they don't really understand how to buy it.
That's
So I
true.
have someone yesterday who came in and said, "Well, I met with this insurance broker and he recommended that I buy $500,000 policy."
Right.
I said, "Okay, it's good. Do you know exactly how that's going to impact your family? And number two, what type of impact do you want on your family? And number
Hmm.
three, do you understand your own human life value and how much you need to replace of your income?"
Okay.
She didn't. Okay. So happens that her human life value based on her income is $6 million. That is what she qualifies for. Okay.
Wow.
So when I say human life value, take $100,000 worth of income for the next 30 years plus inflation.
Yeah.
So if you are healthy enough and lucky enough to make it to age 30, I mean 30 years from now, for example, and earn $6 million, essentially we're trying to replace that number today. So you want to find the present value. So she's going to earn 6 million.
Hmm.
Maybe she needs to have $3 million of insurance from that.
Yeah.
Okay. So once the client understands that now they have the information necessary to make an informed decision. So now she can say, well, I'm still fine with $500,000.
Hmm.
Great. Or I get it, makes sense. Maybe I want 1.5 million, or maybe I want to be optimal and get 3 million.
Right.
Right. So protection is the one thing that we have to make sure that we plan for today, and we have to make sure that when you go to sleep at night, that there is no question that if something happens to you, that your income and your family are going to be okay, so they can continue and carry on the same way that you would want them to if you were around, right?
Yeah. That's, that's a lot. That's wise. You know,
It's a lot.
it is a lot.
It's a lot, but yet simple and clean, right? It's,
But
it's, it's, it's not it's not that complicated once you really explain it to people in a way that they can see it from a different lens.
as you were talking, I was thinking, um, how does a person prioritize, long term financial goals from building an emergency fund. Like where do I put my money first or second, or how do I do both?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think again it goes. Every individual is different, and once you get to understand that individual's current situation,
Yeah.
you still want to make sure that they understand that we have to set up that foundation
Hmm.
of liquidity. So it's not so much that I want to save for the future if I'm not ready.
Yeah.
Is that the first thing that I need to do is to whatever amount possible is put away whatever necessary to create short-term liquidity.
Yeah.
That's it, right?
Yeah.
So let's not get ahead to try to build retirement because if we're not ready for retirement, we don't want to, right? We don't want to start at the tip of the iceberg, right?
Right.
So it's the same, it's the same conversation with everyone, Chris, right?
Mhm.
Is if you don't have enough liquid in the short term, I don't want to worry about retirement yet.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So
That's a good point.
let's first figure out your cash flow and let's try to prove a concept. And then as we put someone through a test or savings process, we'll go back every month and we review and recalibrate,
Hmm.
okay, and get uncomfortable and understand. So maybe we went from having nothing to having $5,000. That's improvement.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe we went from having nothing to having $10,000. That's improvement. Whatever it is, right? We just kind of take it as baby steps and then stress test it and then recalibrate. And once people get to see that they can build, it becomes a
Hmm.
habit and that
Right.
easy, and then they don't want to change it. Okay, so
Yeah.
that's how we create that priority. Okay, right? So you want to get organized. Once you organize, you have clarity. Once you have clarity, you can create priorities around the decisions you want to make because people cannot create priorities if they don't have clarity. People
Hmm.
cannot create priorities if they don't understand what their balance sheet looks like.
Right.
Okay, so that's the first step to be able to create that.
Whew, yeah. I love this stuff, but I can understand why it's so scary to some people because, but
Yeah,
you're proving right now if you don't have someone that you can talk to about it that can help you take the right steps and do the right things, man, you can make some really, really bad decisions. Um, I don't want to knock other forms of investment, but literally you can fall for anything, you know?
yeah.
You go for the next best thing, like, ooh, Bitcoin, crypto, da, da, like you're all over the place, you know?
Crypto's
Gold.
hot right now, man.
Yeah.
Crypto's hot,
That's why I
right?
said, that's why I said I'm not knocking it, but if you don't know what you're doing, you just start reaching for straws, you know what I mean? You're like, I don't know what to do. Now, if
Exactly.
I was to talk to you and you were to tell me, Look, Chris, you're doing really well. I'm going to advise you to put some money here, put some money here, put some money in crypto because I'm gonna trust you implicitly that all right, you're telling me the right moves to make, but more importantly, you can explain it to me what I'm doing.
Exactly.
You're not just
Exactly.
saying like you just said crypto's hot, and I go okay, so what? And be like, oh, that's all I got.
Exactly, right. And I say crypto's hot because it's a
Yeah,
hot topic right now,
yeah,
and it's important that we have those conversations with clients. I had someone call me yesterday.
yeah.
I had a discussion with somebody in social media today. I never post on social media like that, right? But something just forced me to say something because what's happening is that when you are in a position where you're telling people to do something
Yeah.
without having good information behind it, right? That person can go ahead and do it,
Yes.
and they can lose their life savings because they don't understand it, right?
That is so
So,
true.
so,
Yeah.
so it's very important that although there are things that are very shiny and very exciting, and maybe you can make some money, the real conversation is on how you get organized. Can you become a good saver, right? Let's get educated about investing. How do I invest?
Hmm.
How can I create, different buckets of
Right.
different asset classes? So, for example, if you really want to invest in crypto, once you get that foundation and knowledge, well, crypto can be a sleeve of the overall picture.
Okay.
Okay, right? You
Hmm.
know, that sleeve can be associated with your retirement account or
Okay.
your other retail investment account and your cash and your insurance, right? So you have to look at everything globally
Right.
to make sure that you don't get burned and you can make good decisions.
That is huge. um, I love that you said that you have to look at things globally because, yeah, just reading headlines doesn't work, right?
Doesn't work.
Just reading headlines
Doesn't
doesn't
work.
work. You got to know what's going on in the world, how it's affecting different economies and things like that. So that's some good advice. Um, So let's talk about older people. All right, what was that term Jay-Z said? Something like 40's the new 30 or 30's the new 20, right?
Something
No,
like
it just
that.
seems like no. Older people, even like myself, we're older, but we think younger because the world is evolved, it's changing, right? And I wonder, like, sometimes we get in the mindset. Includes me. You get in the mindset. I had this conversation with Nunez a year last year, but sometimes you get in the mindset was I'm too old to save, right?
Right.
I just want to enjoy the rest of my life, make sure my family's taken care of. But my goal to reach a millionaire, probably done. But I think there's a way to get people out of that mindset. But I'm not as bad. But I do know people that think that they're too old to save. What are you telling people in their twilight, maybe having 15 more years of work left, 10 years of work left, 55, or they want to retire by their 70? What are you telling those people, and what's the best strategies for them?
Yeah, when it comes to that type of situation,
Mm-hmm.
it goes back down to really again understanding what the objectives are for that person, right? Because um, they might want to spend every penny,
Right.
okay, and that's
Mhm.
okay. There's nothing wrong, right? So
Right.
I think when we have to have a conversation, if you want to spend every penny, what is the most efficient way for you to do that,
Oh,
right? So you can really
tell
enjoy
me.
it, right? Because
Hey,
if
tell
you
me.
want, right?
Yeah.
And I tell you that because I have had some of those, but it doesn't mean that they don't really care about the people. They do want to care for the people,
Hmm.
okay? Perhaps they just don't know the best way to do it, and therefore they just want to focus on themselves, which is fine, okay?
So, but
Right?
I'm going to let you finish here. But when you say spend every penny, you might be telling them, "Hey, it's great that you want to spend every penny, but I want to teach you how to spend every penny for a longer period of time." Right? Right?
Right, yeah, exactly,
Right?
absolutely,
Like you can
absolutely,
spend
right?
every penny, and that can last you 5 years. But I'm going to teach you how to stretch this for 10 to 15 to 20 years.
Exactly, right? Because we
Right.
got different concerns there, right? When it comes to
Right.
somebody entering retirement, right? I think that the challenge is it's that when we are pre-retirement, right, we are earning cash flow and trying to
Hmm.
build wealth, okay? And then we have different risk factors that we have to deal with pre-retirement, whether it's inflation, right? Inflation could be our friend pre-retirement, okay?
Right.
In some cases, right? Whether it's investing in your 401k and things like that. When it comes down the hill, right, when we reach the peak, whatever that peak is, and now somebody's thinking about retirement, there's different risk factors we have to account for.
Hmm.
Inflation is not so much our friend during retirement,
No.
for
Right.
example, right? A 401k, although friendly during pre-retirement because you can get to deferred,
Hmm.
in the back end, not so friendly because you have to pay every single penny in taxes,
Yeah.
right? But most people don't think about that strategy, right? Also, is like you mentioned, is okay, is the fear of living too long and maybe running out of money,
Right.
right? And therefore, what happens is that people begin to hoard their assets and begin to use their assets in a way that perhaps you know doesn't really generate the most amount of cash flow
Hmm.
or promotes the most amount of taxes because they're not really using the best strategy for that, right?
Right.
So people might want to focus on themselves, but there are ways to make sure that they can stretch that and live a good life. And if they really want to, they can still do planning so they can live something to somebody else that they care for and not have to jeopardize the retirement,
Right. Okay.
right?
So, anytime this happens, every single time, you're going to bear witness to this. That every time you talk to someone about, you need to go talk to Jose or talk to this financial planner or this financial advisor, whatever. As soon as they hear the word insurance, they go, "I'm out." Right? There are some
Yeah.
people like that. So why don't you tell us, like, what role does insurance play in wealth building? How's that? What's that? Because everybody looks at it as, oh, it's my when I die, then someone else is going to benefit from my money.
Yeah.
So talk about how insurance helps with the wealth building.
There's a very misconception about insurance, right? And the
Yeah.
thing is that like everything else, most
Right.
people don't really understand insurance.
Hmm.
Okay, once you study it and understand it, and you should study and understand it, just like you should study your 401k
Hmm.
and your investments, right? Because most people still don't understand their 401ks. They don't.
Right.
They just do it because everybody else is doing it.
Yeah.
But insurance plays a very important role because What it does is that allows you the opportunity to create a bucket of cash,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
That is not correlated to the markets.
Okay.
Okay, allows you to create a bucket that can replenish the cash that you spend on yourself
Right.
for your family.
Okay.
Okay, allows you to weather all the risk factors like investing in equities in the markets, right?
Right.
Um, and we have to look at insurance just as a different asset class.
Hmm.
Okay, and the important thing is really understanding not how insurance really works on its own, because as a tool,
Yeah.
we just have to understand as a tool how it works, but how it works with everything else in the room. Okay,
Yeah.
because the strategies can be so much more powerful if you understand how a life insurance policy, for example, works in
Right.
combination with a 401k and in combination with um, your retail investment account and in combination with your real estate, right? Because they're just tools.
Hmm.
And if we really understand how to put the levers and leverage of all these tools, the strategies and the cash flow and the tax efficiencies that we can create are are vast.
Right.
Okay, so I think that people just need to really understand it. I have a lot of folks that come to me because they want to have conversations about insurance and how insurance work in relation to real estate.
How you're not a family psychologist, I know, but
Yeah, all depends on the day, my friend. So
right. But no, seriously, how do we teach our children? How do we? Because I think for generational wealth, you don't want to like just die and then blow all the money on a strip club. You know what
yeah,
I mean? Right? You know, you want to make sure that your family, your children, also have some type of financial literacy and understanding of how to keep this is going for generations beyond. So,
yeah.
how do you teach children about this?
Yeah, I think it's important that we start having these conversations with our children very early on,
Hmm.
and just creating lessons. Right, every family is going to be a little different depending on their bringing of their children.
Right.
But just having conversations such as very simply, Dad, give me this. I want this. Right,
Hmm.
it's teaching the value that it's just not about you asking and you getting, because then we feel that everything is an ask and I'm just going to get.
Right.
Okay, so we have to try to break that and create some very important what's the word that I'm looking for here, principles,
Okay.
right? That they can understand. So so for me is um, talking to them about the importance and the value of money
Hmm.
and why daddy works so hard, right? And what it takes to maintain the life that we have.
Right.
And if you want something, how you have to save to be able to have it, because you're not just
Hmm.
going to have it just because that it works, right? So every family is a little different, but I think we have to just have that conversation with our children in a way that we feel, comfortable.
Yeah. So, excuse me. Today's economy is very volatile. It's
Yeah.
kind of up and down. Um, how's that been challenging for people trying to save?
In terms of what, the stock market or just inflation,
Just
there's a lot
in
going
terms of
on. So
inflation, prices, gas prices, grocery prices. You
yeah,
know, people have been trying to spend. I don't know. They have a
yeah,
household budget, and then suddenly COVID hits, and after COVID, their
everything goes
household
up.
budget is doubled. They got to come to you and say, "Hey, I can't do as much monthly as I used to because the economy has really affected me. I don't
Yeah.
have, I didn't get a pay increase. So what do I do now, Jose?"
Yeah, that's a tough one, man. Because what I
Hmm.
can tell you is that um, there are a lot of variables that when it comes to the economy that we just cannot control. We
Right.
just can't, right? And the only thing that you can control is your cash flow and how you spend.
Yeah.
Okay, and hopefully, ideally, you have an opportunity at your job to get some raises or maybe make some extra money, whether it's in real estate or starting another business, right? Because that's really how we can create multi generational wealth is investing in yourself. Okay, so and starting in businesses, investing in real estate. However, if you're not in that position and you are a W two employee, it can become more challenging, right?
Yeah.
So we have to focus on what we control, which is cash flow and how we spend. And unfortunately, for some people, they have to be some tough adjustments that might not be ideal for them, and they might not want to, but they don't have to be permanent,
Right.
right? And so everybody's going to have to make those decisions for themselves, but it will be hard for them to do so unless they really their cash flow.
Yeah.
And most people really just don't.
I can teach them how to DJ.
Yeah, yeah, you can make some extra money there, right?
There you go.
So
There you
is
go.
that makes sense? And I keep going back to that because Chris, it's important. All the roots of the problems and the things we want to do go back to cash flow, whether it's inflation related or whatever. But that's the only thing that, for the most part, we can control. If we
Right.
cannot control how much more money we can make because of whatever reason, and we are stagnant on making a set amount of money, what we can control is how we spend,
Right.
right? So that's what we have to spend a lot of our time is not chasing rates of returns and try to take unnecessary risk on buying a stock that I don't necessarily understand or I don't have the money to really invest in, thinking that I'm just going to create, tremendous amount of wealth. That's not how we do it, right? We
Hmm.
have to go back to cash flow, budgeting, and savings, and having those tough conversations as to what can change. In some cases, you can change some things. In some cases, you can't.
Yeah.
But that's where you have to focus your time and energy.
Do you or your company have any type of financial literacy information classes or seminars, anything like that? And if not, do you know places where people can get this type of information and education?
Yeah, we have tons of information. We design our processes and our systems around the process of savings and cash flow.
Okay.
Okay, everything else is derived from that. And there's tons of information out there that people can get. Some good, some bad, which you also have to be careful as to
Hmm.
where you're getting information. But there's good information out there. But yeah, we have tons of resources that we can share with folks about best practices on how to protect, best practices on how to get organized,
Yeah.
best practice on how to save, best practice on how much to save, best practice on how to automate and create a process,
Okay.
best practices for retirement and how to start a business.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Um, so that's important because I think a lot of people, they would love to go to something like that as opposed to make a commitment with a one-on-one with a financial advisor
Yeah.
first. Maybe if they go to a class or seminar, some type of informational discussion, they will find, okay, now I think after hearing this, I should talk to an advisor,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
What about, and this is more from a practical standpoint, when can I draw from my investment? And what are some of the penalties? Like I know every investment has its own penalties, but that's what some people are afraid of. So I wanted to briefly touch on when I can draw from my investments early and what the penalties are and how they affect me.
Yeah, so there's a couple of different buckets. Okay, so bucket number one, to kind of separate the types of investments, if you would, um, you have retirement accounts. Okay, those retirement accounts are considered qualified plan, and the reason for that is because they are really regulated by government. Okay, for the
Hmm.
most part, and there's a lot of nuances and restrictions and rules and regulations around that. So when it comes to an IRA, when it comes to a 401k, or for self-employed individuals like a SEP IRA or a simple IRA,
Hmm.
all those rules are very similar in the sense is that you get 2 out of 3 tax benefits.
Okay.
Okay, um, with a 401k and IRA, you get a benefit of a tax deduction,
Hmm.
where if you make $100,000 of income this year
Yeah.
and you put away $20,000 in your 401k,
Yep.
then your taxable income is only on 80,000. So the 20,000 that you put inside the 401k, you're right. You get a deduction for that, and then that's tax benefit number one.
Right.
Okay, right. Tax benefit number two is that you actually get to defer the growth of that account
Hmm.
into your rate to retire.
Okay.
Okay, and one of the rules is that as long as you are employed, you cannot just go in and jank the money and say I'm just going to take the cash out. You cannot do
Right.
that. Okay, in order for you to access the money, you either have to have the provisions where you can borrow from the plan, and you can only borrow up to $50,000,
Yeah.
right? Or 50% of what you have. Or two, there is a provision where you have a hardship distribution. You can take some money out.
Hmm.
If you don't have one of those two, then you have to wait until the age of 59 and a half
Okay.
to withdraw. Okay.
Gotcha.
If you withdraw, if you set the money before 59 and a half, take the money out, then it becomes a taxable event. So you got two set of taxations.
Hmm.
If you had $20,000 and you just withdraw it on separation before 15 and a half, that becomes income for you for the year. So you
Right.
have to add that to your income for the year. So you have to pay taxes there because you no longer have the benefit of having the money in that account. Okay.
Gotcha.
And the second thing is that now you have a 10% penalty on top of whatever tax you have to pay on that. So people have to think very carefully as to how and when they access those funds for whatever, right?
Hmm.
So I hope that answers your question. That's
It does. It
the
does.
type of question.
Because I know a lot of people worry about that. And that's one of the reasons they're afraid to invest. So I have one more question for you before we get out of here. Tell,
Yeah.
give me one piece of advice that you find yourself repeatedly giving to clients about savings and building wealth. Something that you talk about over and over again.
Over and over. I think I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but uh, if I can tell clients and people in the general public one thing is that they have to take the time to really get organized,
Yeah.
to really see what, to really study what their personal balance sheet really looks like,
Yeah.
and understand every single component within the balance sheet. And there's
Hmm.
four components. There's your protection,
Yeah.
your assets, your liabilities, and your cash flow. Once you do that, if you understand that, then you can create priorities around how you make money decisions. And then lastly is you have to create the ability to be able to save, to build liquidity, because that liquidity is what's going to allow you the opportunity to be okay in the short term,
Hmm.
and then invest in any potential opportunities that might come along that is going to propel and give your family better opportunities, right? Whether it's real estate or investing in the business or just investing in the stock market or whatever.
There you have it. So Jose, how can people reach out to you or get in contact with you?
Yeah, so people can reach out to me on social media. I have a LinkedIn page. Obviously, my name is CS. I believe people can go in here and find me through there. I have a Facebook, social media. We also have a website. My website is Jose O Segura. It's just my full name and my middle initial, so Jose O Segura .com, and they can find me through there, and they can message me and request some information and see all the tools that we have available there.
All right, man. So I'll see you out there. Will I see you at any mixers or anything soon coming up?
Yeah, man, I'm trying to make them to some of them, man. So hopefully I can get out there and have some fun. But
It's hard to stay relevant, isn't it?
there's a lot going on. But yeah, man, I appreciate you having me, man. This was fun.
All right, man. I will talk to you later. You have a good one, man. Have a good day. Take care.
Thank you. Man.
All right. Bye
Thank you,
bye.
brother. Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, man.
Have a good one.
You
This
too, man.
is the Real Estate Happy Hour, and I'm your host, Chris Wright. It's a fun place where we talk real estate